Welcome back to day 6 of 12 Days of Dune. So today we're gonna just reuse everything that we've learned from this week and build them up in a culmination. So today's question is, how can we put 2 or more of the variables from this week's queries together to compare usage for USDC based pair on Uniswap v2? And then tomorrow we're gonna start over from beginner's level, but let's just have some fun today. And I will hand it over to Andrew to do the logic and walkthrough.
All right, so let's get into the query for today. So we are gonna reference query 4 from day 4 on the MEV bot volume, and we're gonna reference query from day 3 with the routed swaps, and we're essentially gonna combine these, abstract some concepts, and add a lot of kind of neat little tips and tricks along the way. So let me get started. Instinctively put a select in, but first we need this with MEV as. We're gonna copy this all in here. And I'm gonna remove this data exploration portion that we did. And let's start generalizing some things. So we still need minute here. We don't need time. Again, this was a weekly time series, but we just want to get all USDC pairs, and we want essentially the total number of swaps, total number of swappers, total USD amount swaps, as well as the MEV values for all of those. So that's what we're going to get from here. So I'll just rename it to be more clear. MEV volume swappers, right? I'm going to get started by generalizing. So I want s.contract address, this is the swap, as the pair address, right? This is the swap event. I don't need the labels metadata anymore. This is still good for us to have as QA. Let me just check what the USD ETH. Yep, we're going to take this. I'm going to mark this as QA only. But really what we want is where the pair created, so the pair token 0 equals token address, or p.token 1 equals token address, right? So we want this to be the USDC address, USDC. Let's pull it in here. And because this is an OR statement and we have an AND afterwards, we need to put it in parentheses. Otherwise, it's going to mess up the logic. And instead of month, I'm just going to put granularity here so that people can play with things even more flexibly when they want to analyze. So we can put day, we can put month, we can put year, just as starts. Default's going to be month. Time length, I'm going to start with 3 or 2 just to make it easier to test. Anyways, we don't need this anymore. We don't need any of the decoded name stuff. We have the interaction 2, which we still need for MEV. So this is for MEV. We need the transaction from as swapper. This is for unique swappers later. We still need a transaction hash. And all right, now let's get the token addresses. So case when token 0 equals our token address, then we want token 0 to stay as token 0. Otherwise, we're going to give token 1 as token 0. And I need to end my case statement, and I'll rename this as token 0. Now let's copy it over again, this time for token 1. So if token 0 is our token, then token 1 should stay token 1. Otherwise, we want to swap it. Again, this is just for making it easier to do comparisons and valuations later. This will make sense, I promise, in just a few seconds. So I'm going to remove this column. And instead of token bot address, it's going to be token 0. So I'm going to make that change now. And yeah, so we want all of our raw amounts from our swaps to be denominated in our token address that's inputted. Because you can imagine for USDC, there are a lot of pairs where the other token is probably not super popular and it isn't in like the prices USD table, or doesn't have accurate prices in general, even if you try to calculate it across DEX trades. So we want to make sure all of our amounts are denominated in token 0, right? So we need a bit of a complex case one, but I'll walk you through it. It won't make it'll make sense. Almost, it won't make too much sense. So I'm gonna say when amount 0 out is equal to 0, and p.token 0 is equal to token address, then so this means we're swapping for token 1, which means we want amount 1 in, or amount 0 in, right? Because if we use amount 0 out, that's going to be that's 0, so that wouldn't work. But if we take amount 1 out, then we'd be pricing in amount 1 or token 1, and that's not what we want. So we do this as token raw amount, but we need a bunch of other cases in here. So let me add some casts, and then let's copy and paste. So I'm casting because this is a string in a database. You might not have to do this depending on how far in the future you're watching. All right, case 1. So when case 1, when amount 0 out is not equal to 0, that means they are trading for token 0, and token 0 is the address we want. So we just say, all right, let's just keep that as amount out. So let me copy paste this again. There's only 4 cases. So when amount 0 out is 0, and this is not our token, then we actually want amount 1 out, right? So let me make this clear. So this is swapping token 1, and we don't want a price in token 1, so we want the amount in. This one is swapping for token 0, which means we want 0 out. And this one, we're swapping for token 1, right? Because amount 0 is out. And we actually want token 1, so we want 1 out. And in this last one, we're swapping for token 0, and we want amount 1 in. So that might sound confusing. Just think about it a little bit, and it should eventually make sense to you. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments. So we're going to have token raw amount, and we'll replace this here. Okay, so this should work for us. Let's just take a limit just to double check that this is what we want. So I'm going to run just this portion here. And I'm missing something. I have 2 where statements. All right, I'm going to comment this one out because we're just queuing and we don't need that transaction check right now. So let's run it. Contract interacted to cannot be resolved. Yeah, because it's contract address, not interacted to, because yeah, that's just an auto fill error. Cool, so it worked. We can see the pair being swapped is our USDC ETH pair. This is the contract that was intermediated, which we can actually see is not the pair, it's some other contract. I think that's the router. This is the person who initiated it. We have the hash. Our token 0 and token 1 are what we expect, where USDC is always token 0. And we have these raw amounts. So let's double check that this is what we want. So in this case, they swapped for USDC. So we should see 41081334, which I see. And that was a swap out. Let's see if we can find a swap in. All right, I'm going to cut until I find one. Oh, amazing. This one was a swap in. So this is 500 USDC coming in, and I can see 500s correctly here. So both for swapping in and out, everything in raw amount is in token 0. Or it's in our token address that we inputted, which is token 0, because we did the flip. So I can remove this limit. And now, before I get into pricing, I actually want to get unique swappers. But because I did this in a nested CTE, that won't work the way I want. So I'm going to remove this one. And we're going to consolidate things a bit. So now this is base. This bottom one is priced swaps. And we'll come back to this. I want to get swappers as, and this one's easy. I'm just going to get the selects of approximate distinct, which just counts distinct for swapper as swappers from base. And of course I need pair as what we're grouping on. Right, so this is going to give me the number of swappers across this time interval. And for priced swaps, so now I have base. I still want to join on, I need granularity here. I still want to join on minute, which is fine. I've contract interacted. I want to add more data, so I want the pair. I need the token 0 and token 1. I do need contract interacted. I don't need the name or contract to type. And I believe that's everything. So group by 1, 2, 3, 4. Group by doesn't need to change. This is what we want with priced swaps. So let's now put things together, right? So this one down here is labeled MEV. So I'm just going to call it labeled MEV. If you saw the addendum MEV video, I'm going to put the link on the side right now. You'll see that we added flashbots into here. I'm going to do that at the end. But just to remind myself, I'm going to have like MEV new as, and it's just going to be select address as MEV contract from labels. Let me just copy this. Oops. And that is going to be a union on select distinct transaction 2 from, there's the flashbots MEV dataset and MEV summary. Ethereum.transactions on s.transaction hash equals transaction.hash. All right, so quick addendum here. The part I just wrote on using flashbots actually doesn't work correctly. I did a check where I took the part where we get the distinct 2s and I joined it to contract labels because I wanted to check if I was accidentally pulling in any routers. And it looks like, yeah, I'm still pulling in quite a few different routers that are not MEV contracts. And so that's why volumes, you'll see if you looked at the office hours, were so high. So because of that, we actually can't do this. And you should comment out the portion you have here, the union. Just comment that out. You can still follow the rest of the video as is. But yeah, that's my mistake. It happens. This is why you keep researching and checking your work. But yeah, back to the video. Here, we don't need time anymore, right? We still need pair. We still need we don't need contract interacted. We need token 0 and token 1, which I'm gonna just start concatenating because we don't need them as separate symbols anymore, and we're gonna call this pair symbol. We want the number of swappers. We'll do that last. And then we want the arbitrary transaction hash. Again, we took it arbitrary once here, but this is still grouped by contract interacted, so we do have to take the arbitrary again. And we still want the sum of swaps and the total USD. And instead of a case 1 to create a new column here, I want the total MEV swaps, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, plug it in here. We're going to move this, and we're going to move that. I don't need an as. All right, so case when MEV address is not null, right? So it exists in our labels data set as the contract interacted, then we do want to sum the value, right? Else, we're not going to sum it. We're going to put 0. You don't want to do null here because null causes all sorts of sum issues. And we can call this MEV swaps. And now let's do another one. Let's say, let's put it down here. And instead of number swaps, we want MEV USD amount as volumes. Obviously, some tables are going to have really high volumes. Some are going to have low volumes. So let's make these percentages. And so I'm going to take this, divide here, MEV swaps percentage. And let's take this, copy it down, total USD amount, and we'll call this MEV USD percentage. This is no longer volume. This is priced swaps. And this section should be good. Let's check it out. It is not good. What's going on here? Oh, I don't need this join here. There's nothing to join on. End of... Right. Select all from MEV volume swappers, because this is all wrapped in one CTE. We're going to do the routers next. I'm just going to put a select one in here. I like to put things like this just so I remember what I'm trying to do. All right, our data loaded. Let's take a look. So I have the pair, the symbol, which we should join on tokens to get cleaner, the hash. We have the total swaps, the total of MEV swaps. Percentage does not look right. And then we have the USD amount and the MEV USD amount and the percentage. Cool. All right. So far, this looks good. I think for the MEV swap, I'm just going to cast it again. I think maybe something's going wrong at the column level, but that should fix it. So we also want to left join tokens.urc20. We've done this every query so far, but if it's your first time seeing this, we want to be able to get all of the symbols, right? Contract address equals v dot, not pair, but token 0. And tk0 dot blockchain equals Ethereum. All right, let's do that again and change these all to 1. And let's do a coalesce tk0 dot symbol. So this is saying, all right, if we find the symbol in our table, then replace the address with the symbol here. But if we don't, then just keep the address, right? So this will make our data more readable. We want to join swappers in here. I'm just going to do it up here so I can order the columns. It's a little more confusing, but that's okay. On s.pair equals v.pair. and we're gonna have s.swappers here. Because this is already aggregated, I need to just add it to the group by. And this should be fine. And let's see. Oh, what is that doing there? We might as well improve the UX now of how we look at examples. So I'm going to find from the routed query, the join where we get the explorer, and also we have an example hash. All right, so we want the example hash, and we want as pair href. So this is going to be, we want the pair address here, and we want this to be the pair symbol as the label. For here, for the link, I'm just going to say example. And this should be transaction hash as example hash. And I only want columns from our MEV table. So I'm going to do this. And let's remove the where filter so we can get all tokens. And then let's join in MEV new. All right, so I'm going to recall this MEV new on MEV new.address, and we call a MEV contract here. So this is going to be MEV contract. And let's run this, and we should be finished with the first section. Again, this is giving us the number of swappers. Oh, hold on. We have an error. Expecting. Oh, yeah. Can't have a comma. So, missing a comma. This is going to give us the number of swappers, the total amount swapped in USD, the total number of swaps, MEV new.address. Yep, that's because it should be MEV contract. It's going to give us the total number of swaps, and hold on, pair is ambiguous. Uh-oh, we ran out of memory, so I believe I have done something wrong here. It might be too many tokens, so I'm gonna add something here. I'm gonna add having total USD amount greater than some minimum USD volume. Let's say minimum of, I don't know, like 10,000 seems reasonable. We don't really care about pairs that have less than, let's say 5,000 USD in volume. So this might be your first time seeing having. Having is when you do a where statement after the group by, right? So I can't put where total, like this is greater than something, because this is an aggregation. So in this case, it's going to aggregate and then check. Let's run this again. Of course, if it's an aggregate, you have to put the sums. So this is priced swaps. So I'm going to do this. All right, amazing. So the query has run. So I'm just going to take a look. I can see, oh, pair symbol does not look correct here. So I have messed up a join somewhere. T0 is token 0. Ah, this must be token 1. All right, the symbols are a little confusing, but you can kind of see the number of swappers. So this should be USDC ETH, and you can see the amount of total swaps, MEV swaps, percentages, total USD volume, MEV USD volume, percentages. I'm going to move on to the router section for now. So let me take the router query. I only really need this top part here. I'll explain in a second. That's not the right one. All right. So ultimately, at the end of this router query, what we want is the pair and then the number of paths routed, right? So how many paths get routed through this pair? So let's reformat things first so they're easy to read. This can go here. We want to add a time filter to things. So I'm just going to put block time. And we're going to copy this all the way down here. And where do I call all router swaps? Here. So let's just take, where do I filter on granularity? Somewhere here. So where swap dot call block time is greater than some interval, so we have this. All right, now let's figure out how to generalize things. So originally we were checking for, I think I deleted it, this part. Originally we were checking for cardinality greater than 2, meaning it wasn't a direct swap of just one token to another and that's it. There had to be a hop. And we're checking if the sequence contained token 0 and token 1 from this pair that we inputted, right? But in our case now, we want, and I'm going to copy both of these because we still want to QA things. I want to get either all the pairs for, so not either, I want to get all the pairs and their token 0 and token 1. I'm going to do just where where pair equals this for now for QA. And when I go down here, I still need first and last. I don't need the full path. I don't need the transaction hash. I want to, let's say, I want to count the number of symbols, or basically number of paths. So I'm going to say as paths. So I'll call it num paths routed. I don't need this. And I do want a group by 1, but I can't do this part in the where statement this time. So instead I want to do a join, right? And how I'm going to do this join is basically saying, all right, for every row in pair tokens, because joins check every row in join tokens, I want to check if the path contains the sequence that we're joining, right? So I don't actually change anything here in the logic of the where. I just need to make sure I have both paths here. And I can remove this from the where statement, right? So what this is doing is we're taking all non-direct swaps and we're joining our pairs such that for every single pair we check how many, so if there's a path that went WETH USDC, USDC hop, and we had two pairs, like the USD hop pair and the WETH USDC pair, when we join this, you're going to end up with 2 rows for that path swap. One row being the USDC ETH pair and the other row being the USDC hop pair, right? So now if I take pair tokens by pair and I say, all right, now that I have all of the swaps with all of the pairs that the swap went through, Now I just want to do a count, essentially. Actually, now that I think about it, no, I don't want to count. I need an approx distinct. Because count would tell me the number of times it was routed. But I really only care about the number of paths routed. In my case. So I don't need this CTE anymore. I don't need this. Here. And let's do select all from routed. Router? Routers. Mismatched input path. Expecting identifier. I'm missing a parentheses. It's not the greatest error message, but if you see a pair message you don't understand, you probably have something like a comma missing or parentheses missing. So, all right, it ran. So I can see there's a null pair somewhere, and there's 2,892 paths routed through USDC ETH. I don't want where pair is null, so I'm going to say where p.pair is not null. And again, this makes sense because we're only looking at USDC pairs. And I can remove this QA. So let's put everything together. And now I'm going to join routers are on pair. And we're going to have that be the last column as num paths routed. I'll do a coalesce because it might be 0. And we're going to run this, and then we're going to do some final visualizations, and then we're done. I didn't name this, so let's alias this. So we're going to alias this, and then we're going to run and play with some visualizations, and then we're done. Okay, pair is ambiguous. So I have to call this mvs.pair. Okay, so you'll see that we have all of the data now. It's loaded. We have all of our columns here, but this is messy to look at. So this is going to be the start of the charting and visualizations portion. We're going to make a dashboard as well. So let me start by making a summary table. So I'm going to call this table summary. And we're going to start hiding the pair column, pair symbol column, transaction hash column. We need the rest. And let's make these numbers prettier as well. So let me take this to be 0.0a. This just truncates things. MEV swaps. USD amount, I'll put a $sign in front of it for these. And then percentages, I'm going to put a %sign in front. And paths routed is going to be 0a. And let's add, or here, let me show you first. Now everything is much more legible, and we can actually understand what's going on in this table. I'm going to add a progress bar to these two so that you can just see literally the scale of, let me add one more to total USD amount. So you can see a comparative scale of just how overwhelming the USDC ETH pair is. Let's add some visualizations as well using a scatter plot. So I'm going to take first the usage overall. So the total swaps, total amount USD, and then you could do either swappers or number of paths routed. I think number of paths routed is more interesting. The scale is very, very concentrated because of USDC ETH. So let's make this logarithmic on both the total swaps and the total USD volume. Let's label the axes here, total swaps, total USD volume. And let's just make the axis cleaner. And we should be able to now see roughly number of swaps, total USD, and number of paths routed. To make it more easy to read, we're going to remove the legend. We're going to call this usage comparison scatter. And we're going to group by pair symbol. So now you can hover over and see the exact stats and the name of the pair for each. We're going to create one more scatter. We're going to call it MEV volume routing scatter. Remove the legend. And we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do USD amount. We're going to do MEV USD percentage. We're going to do total swaps. And then we're going to do a circle radius based off of number of paths routed. Let's logarithmic the y-axis for price. The percent axis, we don't have to logarithmic because it's actually harder to interpret. And we're going to call this MEV USD volume percent of total volume. And then this is just total number of swaps. And this is going to be 0.0a and 0.0a. And we can kind of see, all right, this big bubble, we already know who it is, but let's group by pair symbol. And we can kind of explore and see, all right, there's a fairly even distribution of MEV across the whole, like $100 to $10,000 USD volume range, or number of swap range. USDC ETH sits in the middle with kind of 50% of transactions being MEV. So it's kind of annoying to click through all of these. So let's create a dashboard. So I'm going to go to my creations, dashboards, create a new dashboard. Let's call this Uniswap v2 pair usage comparison. I'm going to put it in the University team, save and open it. First, let's tell people what this is. So Uniswap v2 pair usage comparison. This dashboard allows you to input a token address and compare a usage across all Uniswap v2 pairs that contain said token address. It is applied to a certain period of time with specific granularity, day, month, year, and there is a threshold of minimum total volume to make queries more performant. I'll add some details in terms of this, the walkthrough for all the queries that helped create, or the walkthrough for creating the query and dashboard can be found in the 12 Days of Dune program. I'm going to go 12 Days of Dune, copy over this text, and that gives us a hyperlink. So this gives us our summary. I'm going to make it full screen. Let's add in our visuals, and we're almost done. So I'm going to add the summary table. I'm going to add in the usage table, and I'm going to add in the MEV table. And we're going to just organize things up here a little. To make it clean. The summary table, I'm just going to make it the whole screen. And then these two scatters, we can make them a little bigger. And normally you should put some descriptions next to it as well to kind of explain what each chart is. And let me just refresh here. Sometimes these don't stay up, so then you have to kind of keep pulling them down. But this should save correctly. So cool. Now we can see, oh, okay, USDC ETH is the top pair here. I can see the swap and MEV percentage. And then I can kind of look here and explore like, how do pairs compare across usage and like MEV in general? And kind of give you like an idea of like, okay, USDC DT sits here in both categories. It's like a fairly low MEV table, or it's a fairly low MEV pair, even though it's a fairly high number of usage pair. That might be interesting to explore why. Hint is because it's stablecoins, so they should be much more closer pegged, and you would expect non-stable coins to have a much higher MEV percentage. So if I can find USDC. Yeah, so USDC Bitcoin is down here in terms of like the middle of swaps usage, and it's still pretty high in terms of percent MEV, right? And I can keep looking in here, say USDC WBTC, to kind of see the stats more clearly. So that is the end of our 6-day usage section. I hope you learned something. Please play with this, change your approach, change the scatters, change the tables in your dashboard. Go write a Twitter thread or some Notion doc and share it around. You should be proud that you made it this far.
Thank you, Andrew. As always, beautiful walkthrough. So for the bonus point, you can try to add a column for the percent of trades from an aggregator. A quick hint, you can check what the transactions to is for each swap, or you can go really advanced with self-joins on traces. Starting from tomorrow, we're going to look at liquidity providers. So for tomorrow, we're going to look at what is the amount of liquidity added and removed over time from USDC wrapped ETH pair. See you tomorrow.